Hello, ZachDevolf133 here, and I have a universe for you. What if Izuku has a Necromancer quirk? Part 3. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Walking through the door, Izuku finds himself in a large hall filled with round wooden tables with mugs. At several of them, groups of people were chatting. On one wall is a large bulletin board full of hanging papers. And a little further ahead is a counter where a woman dressed as a receptionist is talking to another group. The place seems to have been stylized to look like a fantasy guild. Probably the cover is that this place is simply for playing RPGs. As Izuku and his group walk in, he can feel all the eyes on them. Welcome to the Silver Star Guild, someone calls, and Izuku turns, seeing a tall man. I'm the guild master, but you can call me Star. He has a wrinkled face, with short, neat gray hair, and a short beard, and is wearing a formal suit. But his most striking feature is his silver eyes, or more specifically, the right eye behind a monocle, which is shaped like a star and seems to glow. You can call me Necromancer, Izuku greets. These are Fighter, Arsonist, Fixer, and Artificer. The man raises an eyebrow at the cat. Don't underestimate her. She is far from being the strangest thing I have ever seen here. Guildmaster Star chuckles, eyes briefly going to the skeleton. Anyway, you're here. What are you looking for? Izuku raises an eyebrow. No one gets here by coincidence. The door, he points to the entrance, is a test. The people you saw entering are a hint since getting here is the first step. So, you're saying that we played exactly as you expected? Fighter comments. Pretty much. The Guildmaster shrugs. If you're accepted, you'll get the location of the real entrance. But as I said, I need to know what you want here. He opens his arm, gesturing to all the people. The Silver Star Guild is the #1 underground union. We deal with information, contracts, support gear, etc. Villains, heroes, civilians, vigilantes, mercenaries. We welcome anyone, no questions asked. He smiles at Izuku, an unsettling smile that doesn't reach his eyes. As long as you follow the rules, that is, the veiled threat is evident to everyone. Fair enough, Izuku says. Well, we are here for contracts. We need money, and except for me, technically none of us exist. The man raises an eyebrow and closes his left eye. His right eye, the star-shaped one, starts glowing as he looks at Izuku. Then he looks at the others. Oh, I see, he says. You have quite the quirk, little boy. What did you do? Izuku asks, narrowing his eyes. That's my quirk, the Guildmaster replies. I call it appraisal. My right eye can appraise anything. With this I can know exactly what the value of a product is. I can also use it on people, he smirks. By doing this I can see information about a person's physical strength, intelligence, agility, and charisma. I also see details about the person's quirk. I never thought I'd see dead people walking and talking. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep my quirk a secret, Izuku replies, narrowing his eyes. Don't worry that young mind of yours, the Guildmaster replies. All the information I gather with my quirk stays only with me. He smiles genuinely this time. Now, if you could follow me, I'll explain how things work here. Izuku and his zombie troop follow the Guildmaster into another room. Everyone sits down, and a woman starts serving tea. Izuku and Star accept, and the others deny. Before he drinks, however, Fixer takes a sip and nods ... Paranoid are we? Guildmaster Star comments. That's not a bad trait to have. Can we get to the point? A fighter says, annoyed? As you wish, Guildmaster Star replies. The guild has quite simple rules. We are a neutral zone, so it doesn't matter if you see a mercenary, hero, villain, vigilant. Fighting is banned. Quirk usage inside the guild is allowed, but any damage you may cause you must pay for. You can use this place as neutral ground for negotiations as long as you inform me first. These are the basic rules. Izuku takes a sip of his tea. He looks at Star and raises an eyebrow. Basic rules, which means there are others, right? Izuku asks, "Good to know you are observing." Star smirks. "You want to be a mercenary. It's quite simple. You can accept any contract that you may find in the bulletin board, but they don't pay that well," he explains. "What you're really interested on are the private contracts. But for that, you need to make a name for yourself. So, as we accept contracts and successfully complete them, we become better known, and thus people may be interested in hiring us personally." Izuku summarizes, "Exactly. Of course, there's a bit more to it." Star chuckles. "As I said, I can measure an individual's strength with relative accuracy. I can tell that your group will go far. Of course, it is impossible to know how exactly their undead state affects my appraisal, but that's beyond the point. I can pull some strings to help you make a name for yourself, but you need to be able to keep up." "And how does this benefit you?" Arsonist asks, raising an inexistent eyebrow. "Simple. Per guild rules, we get a share equal to 20% of the reward from the contracts." Star smiles at them. "So the more you profit, the more we profit as a result. Having successful mercenaries also increases our prestige." Which brings us to the second rule. Some fools end up biting off more than they can chew. To avoid this, we have a rule for broken contracts. If your group fails to complete a contract, you will have to pay a fine equal to 70% of the contract value. With these rules, you ensure that the guild will profit regardless of whether your mercenaries succeed or fail. Fighter comments with a nod. "And you make sure that the mercenaries don't take jobs that they can't complete, because besides the risk to their own lives, they could end up in debt. So, it's quite the risk to take," Fixer says. "But the payment is on par with the risk." "Being overconfident is a problem," Artificer says from her place on Izuku's lap. "And what happens if someone can't pay the fine? If someone does not pay the fine within 2 months, they are banned from all establishments related to the Silver Star Union until the debt is paid, which, in the underground, is almost a death sentence. Those who frequent the guild are primarily informants, mercenaries, vigilantes, and underground heroes. The guild is an asset they cannot afford to lose." "And what about the law?" Izuku asks. "I imagine you deal with many things in the gray area." "The guild will offer you protection for many types of jobs," Star replies. "If you're arrested while doing a contract, we can bail you out, but be warned that in doing so, we'll consider the contract as failed, and you'll have to pay the fine." He taps his finger on his chin a few times, then adds, "Of course, we can't help with everything. Like, let's say you're caught while trying to invade the HPSC, or the contract was to assassinate a hero. In these cases, you're on your own." "I see," Izuku nods. "Is that everything we need to know?" "Pretty much." Star shrugs. "You will need to complete your first contract before you can be accepted into the guild. For newbies, we have 3 contracts available." He puts 3 paper sheets on the table in front of him. The first is asking to recover a stolen diamond. The second is an assassination contract. The third is a kidnapping. Izuku raises an eyebrow and points to the first paper. "This contract is very simple. The client was trying to sell a rare diamond to a collector, but he was cheated," Star explains. "The contract is to get the diamond back from the collector. As a bonus, they will pay you extra if you destroy the collection. They don't care if you destroy or steal the items. And you can keep anything that is not the diamond." Izuku then points to the second paper. "This young man has upset the wrong person," Star says. "The methods are irrelevant, but the client will pay a bonus if you bring the head as a trophy." Izuku suppresses a wince and points to the third one. "This is probably the easiest one," Star shrugs. "Someone owes him a large sum, and the client wants you to kidnap his son." Izuku nods and thinks for a moment. All 3 missions are clearly criminal. Not that he expected anything different. No one would go to an underground guild to hire someone to clean their garage. Izuku knows he will have to make some morally questionable choices, but still. We'll take the first one. Izuku definitely doesn't want to kidnap an innocent person, and as for killing ... maybe one day, but not yet. Perfect. Star claps his hands. Andromeda, give them the details, please, he says to his secretary, who nods. Well, I'm rooting for you, kid. He dramatically points upwards. I'm sure you'll shoot for the skies. It's the next night that Izuku and his squad meet in front of the address. An old house that, although large, seems abandoned. The collector keeps all his items hidden here, and he thinks no one knows the location. An arrogant fool. The security system is laughably bad. Artificer can disable everything in a few moments. Fighter easily breaks down the front door, and the group scatters to search for the diamond. The various rooms of the house are set up as a museum exhibit. Izuku finds works of art, sculptures, weapons, and more. Surely this person took years to put all these things together. Then he finds a room full of jewelry. Necromancer here. I think I found it, Izuku says, reaching for his communicator. Second floor, right wing, third door. There's a lot of jewelry here. Fighter here. Fighter answers. Me and Artificer are in a room with electronic devices. We're looking for anything Artificer can use. Arsonist here. Arsonist says next. I'm in the weapons room. There are some interesting things here. Fixer here. Fixer is the next. Unless someone wants to wear a medieval helmet, there's nothing useful here. We can't carry too much, Fighter says while Izuku searches the room. Keep light. Yeah, I know, Fixer replies. I'm going to help Necromancer. Fixer out. Izuku searches the room and finds many expensive-looking things he wonders if they could sell through the guild. Fixer gets there a few minutes later and starts picking some things up. It takes some rummaging, but he finally finds the diamond, hidden in a display dubbed the European Jewels. I got the diamond, Izuku says, picking the 3 jewels. Understood. I got everything I need to, Fighter says. Me too, Arsonist adds. Let's meet at the entrance, Izuku says. Then Arsonist can do his thing. My favorite part, Arsonist adds, and Izuku can feel a grin in his voice. Izuku shakes his head and goes with Fixer to the entrance of the house. When he arrives, Fighter and Artificer are already there, holding bags where Izuku imagines whatever they took from the collection is. A few seconds later, Arsonist arrives, and Izuku only needs to look at him to start shaking his head. You didn't, he says, observing what Arsonist has in hand. Oh, I totally did. What is your excuse now? Arsonist replies as he gives Izuku the fucking scythe he brought. You're awful, Izuku says, but he can't hide his smile. What can I say? It's destiny, Arsonist replies with a shrug. Yeah, Izuku says. Anyway, there's only one thing left to do. Ready? Always, Arsonist says and turns to the room. Arson time. Izuku and the others leave the house just as Arsonist raises his arms and lets his fire flow. Within moments, the flames spread through the wooden house, consuming everything in their path. I should have brought s'mores, Izuku mutters as they leave. Arsonist leaves the house a few seconds later, and as they leave, Izuku drops a small card for the collector to find. After all, the client wanted them to know who destroyed the collection. After that, they return to the guild, carrying the diamond and a photo of the house in flames as proof of what they did. Guildmaster Star grins when he sees it. Congratulations on your first successful contract, Necromancer, he says and gives a small card to Izuku. Welcome to Silver Star Guild. The card is silver with a star in the corner. It has the name Necromancer printed on it. Izuku raises an eyebrow. I never erred in my judgment. I knew you would make it. So I had your card made as soon as you left yesterday. Well, Guildmaster Star, good to work with you, Izuku says, extending his hand. Likewise, kid, Star shakes his hand. Take good care of this card. This is your key to any and all guild facilities that you might want to use. You can talk to the receptionist to receive your reward. He gives Izuku a visit card. You can open an untraceable account at this bank. No ID is required. After all, most users are morally gray the best, and villains the worst. Having concluded the conversation, Izuku leaves with his group, feeling quite satisfied with the work he has just done. He is even happier when later that day, Ronin takes him out for ice cream to celebrate. He may be a mature child, but he is still a child. The Silver Star Guild is probably the most important place in the entire underground. Finding this place is laughably easy, even though it is technically illegal. After all, they don't need to hide. The only ones who are generally unaware of the existence of this place, or are stupid enough to try to act against it, are young limelights who think they are invincible, but they soon learn their lesson. Hero, villain, vigilante, mercenary. Here labels don't matter as long as you follow the rules. How are the rules emphasized? Simple, by fear. The Silver Star Guild is supported by all major crime lords, as well as the government of Japan itself, although this fact is unknown to most people. The point is the Silver Star Guild is indispensable for anyone involved in the underground. Of course, everyone who is part of the guild is, at the very least, morally gray. Aizawa Shouta, also known as Eraserhead, is no exception. He usually comes to the guild to contact informants in search of information about his missions or sometimes about new vigilantes in his area. But this time, he is here for another reason. A new mercenary he has heard about recently. Now, usually, Eraserhead doesn't care about mercenaries, but he has heard some disheartening things and wants to know the truth. Specifically, that this new mercenary is the youngest person to ever join the guild. Necromancer, his informant asks from the other side of the desk. Why do you want to know about him? Is it important? Eraserhead asks back. Well, generally I would say no. After all, as long as I get paid I don't care, the informant replies. But Guildmaster Star is very fond of the boy. I don't want to cross him, you know. I never thought I would see the day when Star would get fond of someone, Eraserhead says. Don't worry, I don't want his harm. The informant looks at him for a few seconds, then shrugs. A bottle of vodka, the informant says. That's quite cheap, Eraserhead replies. Yeah, it's not like I have much about him. Anything I'm about to say, you would know if you frequented the place a bit more, the informant replies as Eraserhead calls the barman and asks for a bottle of vodka. The kid, wait, kid is good, I have to say. Only Guildmaster Star knows his quirk, but he has a group. Another kid who looks like a skeleton, some guy with white hair who dresses like a doctor. A tall guy who carries a gun with him, and a purple cat. I don't know any of their quirks, but the interesting thing is that they made clear that the kid is the leader. Kid, Eraserhead asks, how old is he? Don't know, but he looks quite young. He can't be older than 8, the informant replies. He's quite adorable, baby face, freckles, green hair. Right after his first contract, he came back carrying a scythe. Wait, he succeeded. Everybody knows that the first contract that Star gives to every new mercenary is made to be failed. Yup, caught everyone by surprise, the informant replies. I mean, the first contract is doable. What Star tends to do is choose a contract to humble the more arrogant newcomers, which is the majority of the mercenaries that pass through that door. But still, I was quite impressed. So, let me get this straight, Eraserhead starts. The new mercenary of the guild is a child, probably less than 8 years old. The leader of a team with another child, 2 adults and a cat. And he passed Guildmaster Star's test on his first try. Yup, the informant replies. If I hadn't seen it all with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. But well, ask anyone you like, everyone here will tell you the same thing. No, I believe you, Eraserhead replies. You are one of the best informants here after all. Good to know, The informant replies, "Well, he comes to pick up jobs on random days, but eventually you should cross paths with him." Eraser nods and leaves the guild. He may look calm, but the truth is that he is freaking out inside. Not only is a child involved with the underground, but he is also a mercenary. Eraserhead can't help but be worried. ... Bakugo Mitsuki is an abrasive woman. She gets angry easily, swears frequently, and too many people. She is an unpleasant woman. But as much as her way of showing it is different from most, she cares for her family and friends. That's why when Katsuki comes home one day saying that Izuku hasn't shown up at school for months, she gets worried. It's not the first time Katsuki tells her that Izuku wasn't at school, but every time she asks Inko about it, she says everything is fine, and Izuku isn't feeling well. Although they have no blood ties, Mitsuki sees Izuku as her nephew. This past year, he has visited her less and less, but whenever she asks, Inko says everything is fine. But knowing that he didn't go to school for months. Just yesterday, she asked Inko, and she said he was fine. Mitsuki marched to Inko's house, no more excuses. She's going to find out what's going on today. She knocks on the door, and a few seconds later, Hisashi opens the door. Inko isn't home, he says, and starts closing the door, but Mitsuki isn't having it. She kicks the door and enters. "Where's Izuku?" she asks curtly. Inko said he's fine, but Katsuki said he wasn't at school for months. Michan to Inko appears in the living room. "What are you?" "She isn't home, right?" Mitsuki sneers at Hisashi, then turns to Inko. "Where's Izuku, Inko?" Katsuki said that he hasn't shown up at school for months. "You said just yesterday that he's fine, Michan. Look," Inko starts. "I got rid of him," Hisashi says. "That little bastard isn't my son." "So, I got rid of him? What do you mean?" Mitsuki asks, then looks at Inko. "Wait, his quirk." Inko, is Izuku? "Yes," Inko admits. "I tried to keep him," Hisashi says, "but I couldn't. Looking at him just made me remember that my own wife cheated on me. I was so angry. No matter what I did to him, the anger didn't stop." "You abused him," Mitsuki says, horrified. "Where is he now?" "I don't know," Hisashi shrugs. "I dropped him into a forest a few months ago." "Michan," Inko tries to approach, but Mitsuki punches her in the face. "You bastard, you let your husband abuse your son. You let him be abandoned. And all of that because you couldn't keep your pants." She screams at Inko. "You chose this son of a bitch." She points to Hisashi. "Over your wonderful son." "Michan, you don't understand. He wasn't supposed to be." "Shut up, Midoriya," Mitsuki cuts her. "Don't call me Michan, and never come near my family again." She turns to leave, but shoots a last glare at Hisashi. "And you better pray that I can find little Izu." Then she leaves. But of course, it doesn't matter if she meets Izuku or not. She will make it a point to report these bastards for abandonment and abuse. Nobody touches her nephew and gets away with it. She immediately goes to the police to report Izuku as missing. She demands that they find him, but the police say that since it has been over a month, it may be impossible. Mitsuki has to hold back from attacking someone right there. Being arrested for attacking a policeman will not help Izuku. That night, she tells Masaru and Katsuki what happened. She definitely did not expect Katsuki's reaction to the news. Mitsuki has seen Katsuki cry very few times, but upon hearing that Izuku was abandoned in a forest by his parents, he begins to cry. That night, he confesses to Mitsuki what happened at school and how, although he never participated in the bullying, he also abandoned Izuku. He promises that the day they find Izuku, he will apologize. The next day, Mitsuki takes Katsuki out of Aldera, a school like that will only hurt him. For a few months, he studies online until they find another school for him. and they make a point of checking out everything about this one. As for Izuku, the police can't find him, and after a few weeks, they declare him dead. Mitsuki doesn't believe this for a single second. If the police won't do anything, she will. She spreads missing person posters all over Mustafu and hires a private detective to search. But to her despair, there is not a single clue about Izuku. It is impossible to know if he is alive. But she clings to hope. After all, there is no proof that he is dead either. ... Izuku, in blissful ignorance of the great distress he's causing to an underground hero and the woman he called his aunt, is skipping toward the ice cream parlor. Beside him is Ronin with mittens resting on his shoulder, and a few steps behind are Frank and Dabi, as usual, bickering about something. I went into the shop one day to get an ice cream treat, he sings as he skips. "'Cause ice cream is my favorite thing to eat," Mittens joins in the singing, meowing instead of using her translator. So many different kinds to try, so many kinds to see. And when it was my turn to say how many scoops to me, I said one scoop for me, please, 1 scoop for me. As impressive as your lungs are, Izuku, this is the 5th time you have repeated the same song, Ronin says. Can't you please stop it? What, you can't handle a little singing? Dabi asks, looking at Frank and smirking. I mean, 5. Dabi starts, no. Ronin points at him. We ain't, Frank continues. Don't you dare, Ronin says threateningly. Into the shop one day to get an ice cream treat, they sing together. 'Cause ice cream is my favorite thing to eat. Is this my life now, Ronin grumbles, making Izuku giggle. Come on, Ronin, you're smiling, Izuku points. I am, and I hate it, Ronin replies. We're here, Izuku says, pointing ahead. Ice cream, he chants as he skips ahead. Ronin just shakes his head and follows behind, pointedly ignoring Dabi and Frank, who are still singing the damn ice cream song. That afternoon, Izuku gets 3 scoops of vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. Ronin gets a scoop of mint. What a dull guy. Frank takes 2 scoops of curry-flavored ice cream. Coming from him, this shouldn't be a surprise, and Dabi doesn't take anything. He can't eat, and a few weeks ago, he revealed that he doesn't even feel the urge to eat, so it's not a problem for him anyway. As the strange family sits down to eat, some people look at them in surprise. Or rather, they look at Dabi, who ignores the stares like he doesn't even notice them. A quick glare from Ronin is enough to make most people stop. But some are braver. A girl with pink skin approaches them. She seems to be about Izuku's age. Excuse me, can I take a photo with you? She asks Dabi, who raises an inexistent eyebrow and chuckles. Sure, why not? He says as the girl's mom picks her phone to take the photo. They take the picture, with Dabi giving the girl a pair of horns, and then she thanks him and goes back to her table to finish her ice cream. Well, looks who's popular with kids, Frank teases. It's not every day that you see a skeleton, Dabi replies, even in a quirked society. Let's be fair, we are probably the weirdest group in the world, Ronin replies. I mean, we are 2 zombies, a cat zombie, and skeleton, and a necromancer, Izuku giggles, putting down his spoon. That's fair, he says. Though it's not like anyone can tell that you guys aren't alive. What would they do anyway? Call the super gravekeeper man to arrest us, Dabi mocks. I'm sure most people would consider necromancy something immoral, Izuku points. I mean, there was a reason why everyone called me a villain at school. Kids are bastards and I want to fight them, Dabi replies. Please don't, Ronin says. They deserve it, Dabi points. And I'm not arguing about this, Ronin replies. I just don't want to have to bail you out of prison because you decided to murder some elementary schoolers. I'll try to rein my fury, Dabi says, but I make no promises. Meanwhile, Izuku just giggles at the interaction, not realizing that Dabi is being completely serious about being willing to kill someone for Izuku. It was a simple mission: break into a villain's secret base and recover some incriminating files for the client. To reduce the chances of being caught, only Izuku and Fighter entered. Arsonist, Fixer, and Artificer are outside, ready to act if necessary. It was supposed to be a quick job: go in, retrieve the files, and leave. And they did find the files quickly, but the situation changed when Izuku found something displayed like a trophy. A preserved body. Some villains do this. Expose the head or body of their enemies as a trophy, both for status and for intimidation. But Izuku recognizes this body: tall, muscular, and rock-hard spiky crimson hair. Although his eyes are closed, Izuku knows they are as red as his hair. This man disappeared a few years ago, and many have theorized what happened to him. It seems that Izuku has found out. Chivalrous hero, Crimson Riot. Fighter, Izuku calls, "Can you break this glass?" "We are taking him with us." Fighter doesn't even look surprised. He just nods and hits the glass with his tonfa. "Hey, boss man," Arsonist calls over the comms. Artificer asked to warn you to hurry. She can only hold the alarm for 5 more minutes. "It should be enough time," Izuku replies. "But just in case, prepare for distraction, all right?" "Let's go, Fighter," Izuku says as Fighter secures the body on his back. "I can reanimate him later. It'll take too long to explain things now." They go back the same way they came. The advantage of being so short is that Izuku can go through small passages and open way for Fighter. This is even more useful considering that Fighter has to carry a nearly 7-foot-tall man. It's close. A few seconds after they manage to get out, several alarms start to sound. They have managed to get out of the base, but they are not out of the woods yet. "Arsonist," Izuku says in his comms. "Diversion." "Right on, boss you," Arsonist replies. It doesn't take long for a cloud of smoke to start rising, followed by explosions. Chaos is instantaneous, with security guards running around, not knowing what to do, which gives Izuku and Fighter the perfect chance to escape. "Everyone, fall back," Izuku gives the order. "Go through different routes. We'll meet at the guild in 1 hour." "Roger," everyone replies. Then Izuku looks at Fighter and makes a signal, pointing upwards. Fighter nods and climbs up a building. Up there, they won't need to worry about being seen. "Lie him down," Izuku says, and Fighter obeys. He quickly scans the body. Mummified. I would say he died a year or 2 ago. Taking off his gloves, Izuku quickly reaches into his bag for a glass of antiseptic. He applies it to his wrist and then to his knife for good measure. Placing his wrist above the dried body, Izuku makes a cut and lets his blood flow. The mummified body begins to recover, the muscles fill up, and the skin is rehydrated. As with the other zombies, the color doesn't return to him, but he only looks like a very pale man, rather than a literal corpse. "All right," Fighter says, "I think it's enough. Let's stop the bleeding." Izuku nods and gives Fighter his arm, applying pressure a little above the wound to slow the bleeding. Fighter dresses the wound tightly in bandages. They are about to sit down to wait for the man to wake up when someone steps onto the same rooftop as them. Both Izuku and Fighter take a fighting stance as they see a tall man wearing black clothes and a gray scarf. The man looks from Izuku to Fighter. Then the body on the floor, Izuku can't recognize him. He checks on what new heroes have debuted weekly, so this man is either a new hero, a vigilante, or an underground. He seems too experienced to be a new hero, and his gear isn't makeshift, so Izuku is betting on the third option. Immediately, he adopts a fighting stance, which okay, fair, his timing was honestly horrible. So he just hops onto a rooftop and sees 2 armed guys standing above an apparently bloodied body. And judging by the way he looked at the body, he recognized who it is. Izuku tries to think of something to say, but the hero's hair begins to float away along with his scarf, and before Izuku can react, he is caught and dragged close to the man. Their eyes cross, and Izuku sees the exact moment when the hero realizes that Izuku isn't just a short guy. A kid? Wah! Then suddenly, Fighter is right next to him, with his gun drawn, and touching the hero's head. Let him go, Fighter growls. Now! Fighter, Izuku calls, and somehow, the hero's eyes widen even more when he hears his voice, "Put down your gun." Necromancer. Fighter grits his teeth. "It's okay. He won't hurt me," Izuku says, then looks back at the hero. "I know it sounds bad, but we didn't kill anyone." "You still have a dead pro hero that has been missing for years," the hero says, and gun pointed to my head. "We found him, but he was already dead," Izuku replies, but not for long. On cue, Crimson Riot starts moving and sits down, gasping for air, which is more of a reflex reaction. Frank already tested, and the zombies don't really need to breathe. They can, but it's not necessary. What? He looks back at Izuku, who smiles innocently at him. "Yes, he was dead," Izuku says. "Technically, he still is." The man frowns for a few seconds. Necromancer is not just a random name. He looks at Fighter. "Is he dead too?" "I'm the only one alive," Izuku replies, then looks at Fighter again. Fighter frowns but lowers his gun. Then the man releases Izuku from the scarf. "That's really cool. Is that your quirk?" Izuku asks. "Some kind of telekinesis. You use it to control the scarf." "My capture weapon," the man emphasizes, "isn't part of my quirk, and I don't know why my hair floats. It just does." Then he narrows his eyes. "Tell me, why shouldn't I just arrest you right here?" "Well, I'm assuming you're an underground hero, right?" Izuku replies. "Then you know about the guild. I didn't do anything too bad, so the guild will back me up. You can arrest me, but I'll be free in today's maximum. Even less, considering I'm literally a kid." Then he smirks. "And do you really want to cross Guildmaster Star? He kinda likes me, you know." "You're, unfortunately, right?" the hero sighs. "So, you know who we are," Izuku says. "Can we have a name too?" Eraserhead, the hero replies curtly. "Why is a kid playing mercenary?" "Okay, what in the world is happening here?" They look to the side and see a really confused Crimson Riot looking at them. "Sorry, mister," Izuku smiles at him. "It's a long story, but to summarize, you're dead, and I brought you back." "Brought me back?" the man asks. "What? Am I a zombie now?" He laughs at his joke, but stops when he realizes no one is laughing. "Wait, am I a zombie?" Izuku taps on his chest, and taking the clue, the man puts a hand over his own chest. His eyes widen when he doesn't feel a heartbeat, so he goes to his wrist, trying to feel a pulse. "You are a zombie," Izuku replies. "Sorry for reanimating you without your permission, but I can't really ask before. I can send you back if you want, but first, what do you remember? Do you know your name, my name?" He frowns, putting a hand on his chin. "No, I can't remember," Age a Fighter asks. 38, he replies. "Quirk," Izuku asks. "Tough as nails," he replies. "It's a hardening quirk." He demonstrates it by hardening his fists, the area darkening slightly and gaining a stone-like aspect. "Do you know how you died?" Fighter asks. "Not really," the man replies. "I think I remember a fight, but not much else." "You were a hero, mister," Izuku explains. "Crimson Riot, you disappeared 2 years ago, and I found your body. Actually," he turns back to Eraserhead. "Do you know his name? You recognized him, right?" "I don't know," Eraserhead says. "I knew him only as Crimson Riot. His civilian name was a secret." "Oh, great, another nameless one for the group," Fighter says. "Who said he's joining us?" Izuku asks. Shouldn't it be his decision? Yeah, right, Fighter replies, raising an eyebrow. Hey, Red, wanna come with us? Sure, why not? Crimson Riot shrugs, just like that. Izuku and Eraserhead ask at the same time. Not like I have much else to do, Crimson Riot replies. As you said, I've been dead for at least 2 years, and I don't know if I have a family. If I have, they have already moved on. Coming back when I can't even remember them would be just cruel. Also, I feel kinda attached to the kid already. Honestly, I'm starting to think it's part of my quirk, Izuku replies. You don't know how your quirk works, Eraserhead asks. Eraserhead, I'm a 7-year-old kid, and my guardian is a zombie. He points at Fighter. My quirk is Necromancy, not exactly the most accepted quirk in society. I'm the child of an affair from my neglectful mother, and my abusive father, stepfather, I guess, abandoned me in a forest. Do you think I've ever stepped foot in a quirk's counseling room? Eraserhead looks at him in a mix of surprise and worry. Izuku is not used to seeing this from any adult in his life. I assume I can't convince you to let me help. He asks a few seconds later, sorry, Eraserhead. I have no reason to trust you, Izuku replies. Figured, Eraserhead sighs, alright. In this case, he pulls a card from his pocket and gives it to Izuku. I can work on that. This is my number. If you need help, you can call me. Well, Izuku says, there might be something. I'm the only one who needs to eat, and none of us really can cook. I'm not good at cooking either, Eraserhead replies, then reaches into his scarf. He grabs something that looks a bit like a blood bag. He throws it to Izuku, who looks at it with suspicion. This is a jelly pouch. It's a good nutritive value. Izuku reads the label and finds that it's strawberry flavored. He opens it carefully and sniffs it, then Fighter takes it and tastes it. He waits a few seconds, then gives it back to Izuku with a nod. Eraserhead observes the interaction carefully but doesn't comment. Izuku hesitantly brings the pouch to his mouth, then his eyes widen when the jelly touches his tongue. This is delicious. It barely takes 10 seconds for Izuku to completely drain it. He looks back at Shouta. Where do you buy that? He asks. This brand is only sold in Hero exclusive stores, Shouta replies. But I can buy it for you, please. I'll pay for it, Izuku says eagerly. You can't live only on these, Necromancer, Fighter says. Actually, he can, Eraserhead points. 3 of those have the same nutritional value as a full meal. They are made for heroes. And enough chemicals to give someone cancer before their 20s. Fighter counters as he reads the label. I've been drinking those my whole life, and I'm just fine, Eraserhead shrugs. Anyway, other than that, there's the Silver Star restaurants. Yes, they are part of the guild. They are open 24/7 for guild members, and members have discounts. Damn, what else the guild owns? Fighter asks. Eraserhead looks at him, raising an eyebrow. Anything, he answers. The Silver Star Union is the most powerful network in the underground. They own restaurants, bars, hotels, guilds, clinics, auction houses, brothels, black markets, and just about anything else you can imagine. They are supported by all the crime lords of Japan. Crossing the Union is the same as declaring war against the entire underground. Hearing this, Izuku let out a whistle. I knew that old man was powerful, but not that much. He's a great ally to have. He won't ever push your boundaries, so as long as you stay on his good side, you have nothing to worry about, Eraserhead explains. Well, good thing we don't intend to be his enemy. Then, Izuku replies. Then he looks at his clock. It's about time to meet the others, he says, looking at Fighter. Then we should go, Fighter says, turning to Crimson Riot, who has been quiet for the last few minutes, just watching the interaction. But what do we do about him? Crimson Riot disappeared about 2 years ago, but he is still famous enough to be easily recognized. That's actually a good point, Izuku replies thoughtfully. He always wore a face mask, so probably with a change in hairstyle, most people won't recognize him out of costume. Well, that's no problem, Crimson Riot says, and his hair starts moving. My quirk works best at the edges, which means that I can harden my hands, feet, and hair a lot more. An interesting side effect is that I can literally manipulate my hair. Not the size, but I don't need a comb or gel to change it. In a few seconds, his hair goes from looking like a mixture of horns and the Nike symbol to a more common spiky hairstyle that you would see in everyday life. Well, actually, spiky hair is not exactly the most common haircut in Japan, but still, especially with so many quirks, people rarely pay attention to their hair. Izuku would know. Despite his curly green hair that frankly makes him look like a broccoli, he's still regarded as plain-looking by most people he meets. Well, that's certainly handy, Izuku replies. So, just take off the face mask and the cape, and it must be enough. Also, we don't know your true name, but we shouldn't use it anyway. He thinks for a few seconds. Well, for now, I think Barbarian will be a good code name for you. Barbarian? That's a manly name. I like it, Barbarian replies, bumping his fists together and grinning. Seeing the interaction, Eraserhead sighs and turns to leave. I'll try to see if I can learn what your name was, he says. And I'll bring some more jelly pouches next time. Just be safe, kid. I don't want to have to bury you anytime soon. If someone ever tries to touch him, Fighter pulls back his gun and starts twirling it in his fingers. They'd better be bulletproof. Eraserhead simply nods and leaves. You know. Our first run-in with a hero didn't go to bad, Izuku says. We are lucky he's underground, Fighter replies. Limelights are much more stupid. He looks at Crimson Riot, no offense. I'd try to deny, but I have no memories of other Limelights, Crimson Riot replies. Yet, I somehow feel that you're right. Well, we're lucky. Now, let's go find the others before Frank and Dobby start a fire. Oh, right, Izuku says, then looks back at Crimson Riot after ensuring they are alone. I'm Midoriya Izuku, and he's Ronin. There are 3 others in our group, Dobby, Frank, and Mittens. You'll meet them soon. Eraserhead said he'll try to find what your name was, but I think you should start thinking of a new name soon, Ronin says. We all choose our new names. Well, I'll have to think for a while, he says, then looks down at his bare chest. Maybe I could make a tattoo too. Well, you're not a hero anymore, so you don't need to worry too much about being kid-friendly. Sweet, Crimson Riot smiles. I'm going to make a really manly tattoo. It doesn't take long for them to get to the guild and meet the rest of the group. Much to Ronin's despair, Crimson Riot, Dobby, and Frank immediately get along like a house on fire. Izuku can't help but laugh. I hope you enjoy the watch. All of this isn't mine. They belong to their respective creators. But I'm glad you took some time to watch this. So please like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.